Salvete omnes, welcome to this video lesson on section 24 of Fabulae Faciles, the fourth labor, the Erymanthian boar. And again, as I mentioned last time, fourth labor we say, but the exact numbering of the ones in the middle is often kind of different in different versions of the telling. All right, the Erymanthian boar. Boar is a male pig, and often, but not always, a wild one. In this story, it definitely is a wild male pig. Tum vero iussus est, but then Hercules was ordered, Hercules iussus est, aprum quendam capere, to catch, capere, a certain boar, aprum quendam, qui illo tempore, who at that time agros Erymanthios vastabat, was laying waste to, or devastating, vastabat. Notice that devastate comes from this word. Was devastating, laying waste to agros Erymanthios, the Erymanthian fields. This would be northwestern Greece. Et incolas huius regionis magnopere terebat, and it was terrifying, terebat, the inhabitants, incolas. And I could just note here briefly, incola is one of those words like agricola and poeta that is a first declension noun referring to a person or a type of person that is nevertheless almost always masculine, right? So typically these words are masculine unless perhaps you have a female farmer or a female poet, in which case you could say poeta feminine or agricola feminine. Okay. So, was terrifying the incolas, the inhabitants of this region, huius regiones, greatly, magnopere. That's the irregular adverb of magnus. Hercules rem suscepit. Hercules undertook the matter, the thing, right? Meaning the task of getting the boar. Et in Arcadiam profectus est, and he set out for Arcadia. All right. Postquam in silvam Paulum progressus est, after he progressed or advanced, progressus est. That's a two-word deponent form there. That's why I translate it active, even though it looks passive. After he advanced a little bit, Paulum, into the forest, in silvam, apro accurrit. He ran into, or in other words, met, accurrit. Notice how ran into is similar to this. The ob prefix, which has assimilated there, means in the face of, or facing. And then, of course, it's in roots like oppose in English, right? Or obstinate. And then currit is just run. So he ran into a boar, meaning he met with a boar. This verb will take a dative of the thing that you meet or run into. Thus, opero is dative here. So, after having advanced a little bit into the forest, he ran into the boar. Ille autem, he, however, simulatque Herculem vidit, as soon as he saw Hercules. So, of course, the he, the ille, is the boar. He, however, as soon as he saw Hercules, statim refugit, immediately ran away. So even huge boar, in a lot of versions this is said to be the largest wild animal in the world, right? Huge, fierce thing, still afraid of Hercules. I should note here, simul atque. Atque is sometimes written as just ak, right, and pronounced differently, but it's the same essential root, ak or atque. By itself, ak or atque is usually translated as or and. You often get them together with simul, so simul ak or simul atque, meaning as soon as, and it's kind of a synonym for the phrase cum primum, when first something happens, which can also be translated as soon as something happens. So just a brief aside there. So, however, he, as soon as he saw Hercules, immediately ran away, refugit. And notice refugit has the long U. The compounds of fugio, fugere, fugio has a short U in the present tense, but when it goes to the third principal part, fugi, it gets a long U. So I can tell this is perfect tense because of the long U there. All right, et timore per territus, and frightened by fear. Wow, that's kind of what do I say? Redundancy there. Yes, and frightened by fear. In altam fossam se projecit. It threw itself, projecit. Notice the pro prefix and the yacit from Yakio. Threw itself, say, into a deep ditch. In altam fossam. Remember that altus can mean high or tall, but it can also mean deep. And if we're talking about a ditch, yeah, probably best to call it deep. Into a deep ditch. Hercules igitur. Therefore, Hercules, laqueum quim atulerat injecit. So here's another compound of Yakio. Injecit, threw on, right? He threw on it a laqueum. Well, what is a laqueus? A laqueus is a lasso, right? So it's a type of loop that you, kind of like a cowboy, would throw and then could tighten up, right? He threw on it a lasso which he had brought, quem atulerat. Et summa cum difficultate, okay, I love this, Hercules the cowboy here. And with the highest difficulty, summa cum difficultate, that's an ablative of manner telling how he did it. As often, you get a cum with that. You don't always have to have that. If you have an adjective with a noun, you can just leave the cum out for these phrases in Latin. And with the highest difficulty, aprum e fossa extraxit. He extracted or pulled out, right? Traho, trahere, to drag or pull. So this is a compound of that. He pulled out of the ditch, e fossa, the boar. Or put it in more English, normal English word order, he pulled the boar out of the ditch. Ille etse fortiter repugnabat, even if, etsi, or you can say even though, he fought back. Notice the re prefix, that's where I'm getting the back from. He fought back bravely, or perhaps strongly, right, fortiter. Nullo modo, in no way, se liberare potuit, was he able to free himself. Et ab Hercule ad Eurystheum vivus relatus est. And by Hercules, notice ab plus Hercule, that's ablative of agent, he was brought back, relatus est, that's the relatus, the fourth principal part of refero, alive, vivus, brought back alive, ad Eurystheum, to Eurystheus. Now, I should note here, it doesn't say here in this telling of the tale, but in a lot of the stories, when Hercules brings back these crazy monsters, if he brings them back alive, and in this one, often you see Greek vase paintings of Hercules carrying this giant boar on his shoulder, right? If he brings them back alive right into the palace in Mycenae or Tiryns, Eurystheus freaks out, and so you will see depictions of him on Greek vases where he is like hiding in a giant jar. So this is part of the story that you often get, and here is one place that you often see this motif in the Erymanthian Boar story. So when he brings it back, Eurystheus is so frightened when he brings this huge thing into the palace that he hides in a jar and just can barely even peek out. All right, hope you have learned a few things about the story, about the vocabulary, the grammar, or perhaps reviewed some things usefully.